It's not that I don't want to help. I do. But life just gets in the way, you know? There's family. And school. And work. And just the busyness of life. But despite my hectic schedule, with the Health online program, I can get the know-how and the skills I need to be the health evangelist I'm called to be. All from the comfort of my own home.
Health, it's an acronym, H-E-A-L-T-H, Health Evangelism and Leadership Training for Him. This program is a multifaceted program that really focuses on equipping you to be a health coach, whether you're a professional or whether you're a layperson, and you can work in a school, a doctor's office, a medical clinic, or stand alone just doing health coaching. And it actually follows the blueprint that we find in Scripture and also Ellen White's writings. And so health program is something that equips you to be on the front lines, the entering wedge of health evangelism.
Through the years, many individuals have come to Weimar for this one semester health evangelism and leadership training course. And they have gotten great jobs. We have many people call us to try to fill positions, health and temperance leaders around the world, leaders in their local churches, or leaders working for other healthcare organizations in the area. And as word has gotten out and these graduates have had such great jobs, more and more people are interested in coming to health, but many of them already have other jobs and they can't really take 4 months out. They are raising children, they have responsibilities in their area, but they would love to do this online.
So Health Online is the long-awaited solution for this problem. Our 4-month health program can now be taken anywhere where there's internet connection. And what's best, it's also self-paced. You'll have up to 18 months to complete what would be a 4-month program. So if you're busy and or work full-time, Health Online can still be an option for you.
That health program features a class by Dr. Neil Nedley, the president of Weimar Institute. It's called Principles of Health. It looks at all the major killers, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, all the major killers in America or Western diseases. through the lens of lifestyle medicine. Not just what the doctor can do for you, but what you can do for yourself. It's a comprehensive course that equips our students to be ready to effectively coach many different people.
Don Mackintosh teaches a great class called Religion and Health, and he'll show studies from Oxford as well as other places on how this is vitally important for comprehensive self-control and to be able to benefit from health, but in addition, how to take people from health to Him. A lot of people know about health, but they don't know how to make that bridge. And with this course, it will be seamless and effective.
The health curriculum also features classes on leadership and ministry development, personal evangelism, training courses on community outreach programs such as Diabetes Undone.
Welcome to this special presentation from the health program, Health Evangelism and Leadership Training for Him. It's a program here at Weimar University that helps people stop, reverse, but better yet, prevent disease. And today, I'm happy to join you. My name is Don Mackintosh. I'm a registered nurse and have worked in, physical health care, mental health care, and work here also in terms of the a 4-month training program that helps people stop, reverse, but better yet, prevent disease. And we have, 20, 30 students that come through those 4-month programs. And that might be something you would be interested in, and we'll mention that later. Today, I'm delighted that we have in the studio with us Dr. Don Sharffenberg. And I can't remember how long ago it was that I met you, but I think it was around 2005 or something. And we met, you came in the middle of beef country to Wichita, Kansas. Do you remember that?
I don't remember it.
Yeah, but that's when we met. And tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a medical doctor. You graduated from Loma Linda University, but what kind of work have you done?
Oh, I'll tell you, I was born in China.
Okay, where in China?
In Shanghai.
Okay.
99 years ago.
Whoa, 99 years ago.
99 years ago. And the two things affected me the most out there was I decided between the minister and the doctor. I saw the doctors had more influence with the people. And so I decided to take medicine. But I wanted to do evangelistic work, see. Then I decided on something else. I saw Dr. Miller, the China doctor, taking out goiters on people. He had special training in how to take out goiters from Johns Hopkins. And he was known all over China for taking out goiters. He did a good job of it. And I thought, as a 12-year-old boy, why doesn't he give the people iodine so they don't get goiters?
Good point.
And so that pushed me towards prevention.
Okay.
So when I got towards the end of my career in medicine, I decided I got to go into prevention. I don't make money this way, but it's better for people.
Okay.
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Mm-hmm.
So here I could have gone into psychiatry, mental health, but I haven't seen many effective people in this field. So that didn't help me much.
Okay.
I could have gone into physical fitness, exercise, but everybody in thinking of exercise was thinking of sports. I was interested in the religious aspect. So I ended up going into the field of nutrition.
Okay.
Because right away, the people are more interested in spiritual things. I get questions, spiritual questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I got into nutrition.
And you went, I think, to Harvard University for that training.
Yes, we didn't get it at Loma Linda much at all.
Okay.
But at Harvard, I got my master's in public health. I wanted to go into health education and teach people how to educate people. I want to teach them how to live. Okay.
So you've done medicine and you've also done research. What would you say one of the most important research projects was that you were involved in?
Well, I was involved in cholesterol. I gave a sermon on cholesterol when I got done, and people said, It was a good sermon, but we didn't know what you were talking about.
So you
because
did.
I hadn't heard the word.
So cholesterol, explain what it is and why you studied it.
Well, it was just beginning to be known. Dr. Fred Stair was the head of our department of nutrition at Harvard, and I was doing research on this cholesterol business. Did it make a difference in your heart attack risk? And we thought it did, see.
Okay. So, I mean, I think everybody watching or hearing today has heard about the risk factor of cholesterol.
Right.
Many other different risk factors as well. So now I understand that you are a Seventh-day Adventist. Is that correct?
Yes.
And generally, are Seventh-day Adventists healthier than the general public?
Much healthier. Gary Fraser has done excellent studies. He's in charge of Loma Linda University's study on Seventh-day Adventists. And he took all the Adventists in California and compared them to the general population. And let's just look at life expectancy. How long are they going to live? In the general population, the men, 19.5% of them live to be 85 or older.
That's the general population, 19%. It's only 20%, 19% live to be 85 or older.
Right. But for the Adventists who were vegetarians,
Okay.
it was 48.6%. That's a tremendous difference.
It's like 30 points difference.
Now, the women live longer than the men. We don't know why. It's been studied well, but we don't know why. Okay? So, of the general population for women, 39.3% live to be 85 or older.
Okay.
And that's all published in this book by Gary Fraser from Oxford University Press.
Yeah, this has, I think, about 300 studies in it. Studies of Seventh-day Adventists and other vegetarians. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, for the women, they 39.3% live to be 85 or older. But for the Adventist women, vegetarian women, 60.1%.
Okay, so that's
Tremendous difference.
Again, almost, what was that, 29% difference or 30% difference?
Yeah.
Or 20% difference? What was it again? The number was what?
39.3% versus 60.1%.
Okay, so 20% difference. Still a big difference.
Tremendous difference.
So this has been verified that Seventh-day Adventists live longer than the regular population.
Now, that was the vegetarians.
Okay.
Now, how about the general group of Adventists who are not vegetarians?
How many Adventists would you say percentage-wise are vegetarians?
Well, in this country, it's not very many. If you mean never eat meat, we're talking about 20% maybe.
Okay, 20% of 1 million Adventists.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not a very large group even then. It should be larger because they've been instructed that this is the best way to go, and they haven't come along very fast on it.
Okay, but you know, they join the church maybe, and they have very bad health, all kinds of things, and so it's still pretty good numbers because they're you know, this is numbers even after they've been not healthy for a lot of their life.
Yes.
Okay, so so that's basic general contours. How much longer would you say a Seventh-day Adventist lives than, I know we talked about vegetarians, but how much longer would you say they live in terms of years? You were talking
Probably
with me about
10 or 12 years.
10 or 12 years longer if they are a plant-based vegetarian.
Yes.
10 to 12 years longer. So just think about it. You could torment your kids for 10 to 12 more years, right? So, and why is it that you think, well, give me some more details about this. Talk to me a little bit about the mortality study, Adventist Health Study 1 and 2. What are the kind of things that have been learned about Seventh-day Adventists and their longevity?
Oh, well, of course, the first studies that came out were by Lemon and Walden.
Okay.
They went to Chicago to the American Heart Association, and they gave a lecture. And they were showing that these Adventists who don't smoke, and they're all in that category, they don't die of heart attack near as often.
Okay.
You see? And when he sat down, Walden sat down, the smoker who was the head of the program, smoking cigars in those days, he came to the podium and he kind of sneeringly said, "And I suppose Seventh-day Adventists never die."
No, okay.
Dr. Walden jumped to his feet, rushed to the podium, grabbed the microphone. He said, "As a matter of fact, two of our people got out of this world alive, Enoch and Elijah."
Okay, so these two people in the Bible, one was taken, it says, the chariot swung low and picked him up, that's Elijah, and then Enoch walked right with God. Well, I bet you they laughed after that. Okay, so this risk factor of smoking then was something that was really documented by Adventist health studies.
Yes, yes. And then, of course, Roosevelt died from a stroke.
This is President Roosevelt.
Yes. And that was too bad. He didn't need to die, but he was a smoker.
I see.
And it came about that Truman then became president.
Yeah.
And Truman started a program called the Framingham Study, where they took everybody in the town, examined them all, didn't treat them, but just see who died from what. Mm-hmm. Who died from heart attacks. And they're the ones that figured out smoking did it. And 1968 or so, or 64, we had the Surgeon General's report on it. Mm-hmm. The next thing they discovered was obesity increased the risk.
Okay, before you go to obesity, so smoking, Framingham Heart Study in Framingham, Massachusetts, an entire city, and they figured out that smoking was a serious risk factor.
Yes.
Okay. And this is where all these stop smoking clinics, the 5-day plan to stop smoking, all those things started at that time, really because of Adventist health, right?
That's right. That's correct. And my father made a film, 1 in 20,000.
That was your father?
Yes, he made that film.
Is that right?
Yes. Remember, people had lung cancer and they died?
Yeah.
But Dr. Oxner took out the lung with the cancer in it, and so has a picture of him there taking out the lung. And so
that was your
20,000.
dad?
That was my dad.
You know how many times I saw that growing up? I mean, I saw that maybe 20,000 times.
But anyway, the film did a lot of good because they showed it in Parliament in London.
They showed that film in Parliament.
Yes, and it really made them very excited about it, much more so than in this country.
Fascinating. So Adventists live 10 to 12 years longer. One of the reasons, and that's the vegetarian Adventist, one of the reasons is because they don't smoke. You mentioned something else. What else did they discover? Obesity you were mentioning?
Obesity was the next thing they discovered. Overweight. We need to keep our weight down.
Mm-hmm. And anything else about that that they discovered? How much weight do we have to take off? What did they discover?
Well, we need to exercise to do it. And midlife is the time to exercise. For every hour you exercise, you will live 3 hours longer.
Well, we should go out and walk right now. So, wait, so that's every hour you exercise, you live 3 hours longer.
Yes. Now, I had a lady helping me with my graphics, PowerPoint lectures, and she was a little bit big, And I said to her one day, I've got to talk to you about your weight. Her face dropped. I said, do you want the good news first or the bad news first? She said, give me the bad news first. I said, you should know that for every disease we know about, you have an increased risk of dying if you're way overweight. Mm. But the good news.
Okay, let's get the good news
real quick.
All right.
If you exercise every day, you will live longer than the normal weight woman who doesn't exercise.
Was that right?
And everybody was amazed at that data. Mm-hmm. Same with men. A man who smokes, has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, who doesn't exercise, will die sooner. Wait a minute. The man who doesn't have these, who exercises, will live longer than the man who does have those things.
So it's not enough to just not do something. You have to actually be exercising.
If you have two lean people, the one exercises and the other doesn't, the one who exercises has only half the risk of dying compared to the other.
So you need to keep on the move.
The only reason being lean is good is if you exercise.
Okay. So when you talk about exercise, what kind of exercise are we talking about?
Well, I have a word to describe the kind
Okay.
that people haven't used. Useful exercise.
Useful exercise.
Growing strawberries.
Strawberries.
One year I planted 3,000 strawberry plants. And people say, what do you do with all the strawberries? They don't understand. Everybody likes strawberries. It's the best way to make friends there is.
You know, my brother-in-law grew up in Norway, and they had a strawberry farm, and he told me he never wanted to see a strawberry again. And I said, why is it? He says, it's such hard work, and we had to do all this, and so it is a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
I got a question that came in. Someone's watching, and Esther is asking this question. I noticed, Dr. Sharffenberg, that you're very joyful. What is the secret that you have for being happy and keeping your mind so sharp?
Well, I think one thing I do, I have hope. I have interest in life. I wonder what God's going to do for me today. And usually something happens. I know God is involved in it. And so I'm working with God every day. I can tell you experience after experience where I know God was with me.
Well, give me one. Give me an experience.
Well, I'll give you one, okay? I was over in Nairobi.
Okay.
Health was being used to bring people into the church. They had a big meeting of all the ministers, all the educators, all the health workers to demonstrate it. So it was going to cost $40,000 to bring them together. Dr. Pong Wangai had his master's degree in public health from Loma Linda. He was director of the Vision Health Department. And he went out and raised that money from the business people in town, okay? He had me come out and do about 11 or 12 different programs before we had this special meeting, evangelistic meeting. I talked with the leading Baptist church. The man had just discovered the Sabbath in the Bible himself. I talked to the Millionaires Club. You had to be a millionaire before you're 30 in order to be a member of that club. I talked to a hospital staff. We had the meetings, 6 nights. It cost $10,000. Some wealthy church member paid for it. And there were 500 in the room. And 100 of them signed up for the Bible class, the Sunday class afterwards. And one man was baptized, Omar, I will call him. That wasn't his name. I don't want to tell you his name. But Omar signed up, and he was a Muslim man who started to preach in his mosque.
Uh-oh.
And pretty soon, the sheikhs thought he wasn't teaching straight Muslim religion, and they came in with hand grenades under the gown to throw at him to kill him. But the young man was to stand up and revile him. That was a signal to throw the hand grenades. The man stood up. His jaw was dislocated. He couldn't talk. And so the hand grenades were not thrown. And anyway, you know God did that special.
Yeah.
And the man couldn't eat. So his father brought him to our Muslim man who had been baptized and prayed for him, and his jaw flipped back in place. But the father of Omar got him on his tent with a knife to kill him. His 2 brothers came in, took the knife from the father, said, we can't kill one of our own. We'll just gouge out his eyes so he can't read the scriptures. And boom, one eye popped out. He screamed and got up and got away. He's been the leader in our Bible correspondence school for Muslims ever since.
Whoa.
It's just tremendous how he's helped us to bring Muslims into the church.
Fascinating. So you say that the foundation of your joy is hope. Now, someone has told me that hope is made up of two things. Number one, the will to live, and number two, the way to live. Because you can have a will to live, but not the way to live.
Yes.
And it doesn't make a lot of difference. So talk to me a little more. What is it that you think? We've said that Adventists live longer, 10 to 12 years if they're vegetarians. We've said that there's a lot of science that documents that. We looked at a little bit of Adventist health studies on this. But what is it that led Adventists to have such a focus on health? Why not the Baptists? Why not the Methodists? Why not the Catholics? Why not the Buddhists? Why are the Adventists so interested in health?
Well, it so happens that in 1844, we believe that it began the time of fulfilling Daniel 8:14 prophecy, cleansing the temple in heaven.
Okay, so that text, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed in heaven. That's the judgment, right?
Yes, yes. And a judge in those days is a deliverer, getting delivered Israel, you see? And the judge in 1844 is to deliver us from sin. And our people were dying too fast. Our ministry was dying too fast of diseases.
I think around age 40.
Yes. And what happened was, what Christ did in the sanctuary, first thing he did was to appoint in 1844 a prophet
Okay.
to lead this church. And a prophet led the church and wrote lots of books, lots of stuff on health, and she told us how to live so we didn't get sick.
Okay. So, yeah, that's interesting. So 1840s, that wasn't the start of the Adventist church. That was Miller, but 1863 the church starts. But between 1844 and 63, 1844 was the first visions he had. But they also visited all the health institutions, Trask, all those different water cures, and they studied all that. And then they decided to start their own sanitariums because of one of the visions. She had 5 or 4 major health visions. And so I'm familiar with those. Maybe another program will go through those. But also they looked in the Bible. Does the Bible have anything to say about how you can be healthy? And did Adventists discover anything in the Bible that was related to that?
We knew what the first diet was that God gave to man. It was a vegetarian diet. We knew the diet in heaven is going to be vegetarian. There's not going to be any killing of animals, no death there. So we knew that was the best diet. And if you did finally eat meat, after Noah came out of the ark, they were allowed to eat meat, but it was going to shorten their life, we were told. They were not to eat the fat or the blood of the animal. That was important because that was where the flavor was, but that was what was killing us with our heart disease.
Wow. So, you know, someone just wrote in, Dr. Sharffenberg convinced my mother to raise me as a vegetarian while she was pregnant with me 70 years ago.
Is that right?
And I've been thankful for this decision my whole life. So you've had a 70-year track record with that person, so they're thankful to you. Okay, so look, this is very fascinating. Now, what you're talking about, this judgment hour message of the judge and cleansing the body like the sanctuary is cleansed, this was found in a group of messages that probably Adventists are known for in Revelation 14, and they're called the 3 angels' messages. So that first angel's message in Revelation 14, verse 6 and 7 says, I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to them that dwell on the earth, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come.
That's right.
So this idea of the hour of his judgment has come was big in helping the Adventists know to talk about health.
And we were to glorify God. And I'm excited about the Bible telling us how to do it.
Okay, so let me read that. It says, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give him glory. So what did that do in terms of our health?
Well, 1 Corinthians 10:31 tells us how to give God glory. Whatsoever you do all to the glory of God.
Whatever you eat
or drink,
or whatever you do.
all to the Lord.
Yeah. So that made us want to know what that means.
Yes.
So what did they discover when they studied that out?
I've had gypsies over in Europe. I was at a gypsy community, and they read how we present our bodies a living sacrifice to God, Romans says. And this man had a dream, 4 brothers. He had a dream that he should get a Bible and read it. He had one, but they hadn't read it. So they started to read it, and he saw that verse about keeping your body in good shape. They thought from that they should not smoke or should not drink.
Oh, interesting.
And then they read about baptism. So the 4 of the brothers went out to the creek and baptized each other.
This is interesting. So look at that. I mean, that's cleansing, right?
Yes.
So Adventists, when they first discovered that, they said, okay, he's cleaning up heaven. We're going to clean up things on earth. That might be clean meats. That might be clean drinks. That might be cleaning ourselves up in terms of baptism.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to come back to that, but let's see. Linda, she writes in, any advice, Dr. Sharffenberg, on how to bring your A1C down? Now, that's a technical term for diabetics, and they take a test over 3 months to see what the sugar on the red blood cell is, and if it's too high, then they want to bring it down. Any advice on how to bring it down?
Yes. Not only bringing it down, how to prevent it in the first place.
Okay.
Number 1, be a vegetarian. Number 2, keep your weight down. Number 3, exercise. With those 3 principles, you won't get diabetes.
Okay, but
if you haven't already, get going on those 3 principles.
Okay, and this will bring your A1C down. So exercise has been shown to lower that, and then of course keeping your blood sugar at a level between 80 and 120 brings it down.
Yes.
So, okay, great. Okay, so back to what we were saying. Bible teaches whatever you eat, whatever you drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God. Any other things that we could see? You know, the first angel's message, you've talked about giving glory to him. One of the things it says, I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having an authoritative voice. And you've said that in the Adventist church, that came through the prophetic gift of Ellen White. That was a kind of an authoritative voice. How can you tell? You know, there's so many stuff on the internet, so much stuff on the news, so many different things that are claiming to be people that tell you what's healthy. How can you tell who's telling you the truth or not? How do you do that as a scientist? How do you do that as a Bible believer?
I like to go back to the Bible. It tells us basic principles. Mm-hmm. It told us what the original diet was. Man was placed in the garden to exercise. So we know those are principles that are true. Now, after the flood, they were allowed to have meat, but it was only clean meat, and they weren't to eat the fat or the blood of the meat. So the Bible is clear, you weren't supposed to eat the fat or the blood of the meat. Mm-hmm. So we learned that.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is original foods as originally grown is the best. If you have to eat meat, and it was allowed for various situations, and sometimes in countries even today, there's not much available, so you do have to eat it. Make sure it's clean meat, make sure there's no fat, make sure there's no blood, and maybe anything else, would you say, from the Bible?
Well, the Bible tells us in Philippians, be careful, don't overdo, be moderate in everything you do.
Okay.
Okay? Too much of anything is bad, too little is bad. Too much exercise shortens your life just as much as too little does.
So what would you say is too much exercise?
Well, they're trying to find that out now. And they've done some studies. And they've shown that, for example, if you run more than 5 miles every day, it's too much exercise. If you walk more than 10 miles every day, it's too much exercise. You see? But in Hawaii, they did studies of those who went 2 miles more every day or 1 or less every day. And those who did 2 miles or more had only half the death rate as those who did one or less.
So something over 2 miles a day.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Now, you know, they did a study, I remember, on how far Jesus walked every day, and it was up there because, of course, they didn't have cars back then. And
They walked everywhere they went.
Right.
To Jerusalem so many times a year and all that.
Yeah, so they were always on the move. So that's interesting you would say that. So keeping on the move. Now, let me ask you this, a science question. If you're looking at a study on the internet or wherever, how can you tell whether or not it's a good study or not?
Well, you first look at it scientifically. You want to know if the Cochrane group, what they say about it.
The Cochrane group.
There's a Cochrane group. That's the most knowledgeable people all over the world. And if they have agreed that this is what that study means, it's pretty apt to mean that.
So the name Cochrane.
Cochrane.
I've never heard that before.
Haven't
Write
you?
that down. I gotta look that up.
That's the gold standard, see?
That's the gold standard. Now, who are these?
There are people all over the world, specialists, you know.
Okay.
And they're the best people. But what happened was, the man who was more surefire to keep the pharmaceutical companies out of their decisions,
Yeah.
the group voted him out.
Oh.
Big scandal. They voted the man off the group who was one of the best at keeping the pharmaceutical people from influencing them.
Oh.
So that was a big scandal.
So they let a cockroach in.
And then they discovered that, look, with the statin medications to lower your LDL cholesterol, they decided, a group of them, 15 in a group, decided you should lower the number. We should be down to 100 instead of just 120 or 130. 8 of the 15 men were getting paid somewhat, got some remuneration from the companies that make the drug.
Oh.
That lowers it.
I see.
See, another scandal.
So this is always a principle, isn't it? One of the things you have to beware is who's paying who what money.
That's right. Follow the
It's
money.
almost any organization. If somebody's giving people money, then, you know, there's a problem sometimes. Okay, another question comes in. Your daily schedule, you now are almost 100 years old. When you get up in the morning, what's your daily schedule? What's making you have pep in your step and spunk in your trunk?
Well, I get up when I'm about 4 o'clock in the morning. That means I go to bed early,
Okay.
8 or 9 o'clock. I'm in bed. But I get up about 4. I eat breakfast at about 6:30.
What do you do from 4 to 6? That's a
Well-
long time.
Yeah. But you do think that you have your devotional. This is the best time to do your studying. You have no interference. So you can get all your studying done, prepare your lectures and all that kind of thing. So that's good.
And you're still preparing lectures.
Yes.
Okay, then what are you having for breakfast? What is it that you're having?
Breakfast should be the best meal of the day. So good that sometimes I have it twice a day.
So what do you have for breakfast?
Well, I can give you about 7 different kinds. Chinese meal, you can have for breakfast, even though there's vegetable.
And you were born in China, so this is natural for
Yeah,
you.
rice and wok cookery, you know. But I like cooked cereals, all kinds of cereals. Brown rice, wheat, oatmeal. You got all kinds of good cereals that you can cook.
Something high in fiber.
Quinoa,
Quinoa.
you see, all those are good. You can have dry cereals, but it should be low in sugar. The Adventists produce at the Loma Linda Food Company Weetabix type of thing,
Okay.
you know, Ruskets. That was good because it was low in sugar and salt. But it's better to have the unrefined thing. The cooked cereal is better.
Foods as grown without any kind of enrichment or taking stuff away.
Now, instead of eggs,
Yeah.
you can have tofu.
Okay.
You can fry that up, just warm it up in the frying pan, like eggs. It's good.
Put a little turmeric in it.
A little turmeric to color, yeah, that's good.
Okay, so this is what you have for breakfast. Now, then what do you do after your breakfast?
Well, you know, exercise is important.
So you exercise, you go for 2 miles or more.
Well, I'll tell you, exercise in midlife is the most important time.
Okay. Are you
Midlife.
thinking you're midlife now, or what are you thinking?
From 40 to 70 is midlife. 40 to 70 is midlife. And that's the time you need to exercise. They've studied Alzheimer patients,
Okay.
and that's the best time to do it, to get your exercise in. Now, a lot of kids exercise, but when they get a little older, they stop exercising. They have more money to buy more food, and they exercise less.
Right. The only exercise is moving the
Yeah.
remote control.
So we really need to exercise in midlife.
Midlife, 40 to 70.
I quit my job in midlife, moved to the country,
Okay.
all forced. I bought a Husqvarna chainsaw
Okay.
and started cutting trees down.
But these were not your neighbor's trees, I hope.
No, these are my, I had 26 acres of land I bought for $28,000, are from Yosemite,
Whoa.
up in the mountains, 3,800 feet elevation, good elevation.
And
You
this,
see?
you think this was a secret to your longevity?
I tell you, being high up, the air is clearer. It's better. You live longer.
Yeah. Okay, so you have your exercise. You're probably hungry when you get done. How many meals do you eat a day?
I eat only 2 meals a day. That's different than most people.
So your breakfast is at 6:30, and your last meal of the day is when?
12:30 to 1.
And then you don't eat anything after that?
No. Drink water.
Any fruit in the evenings ever?
No, I don't.
Okay, and how many years have you done this? Is this something you adopted later when you looked at the research, or is it something you did your whole life?
I did because Ellen White suggested it to be good. The prophet appointed by the Lord was suggested that is a good prime.
This is a very interesting point, because these Adventist health studies, Adventist Health Study 1, 2, and 3, or I guess it's just 1 and 2, and then they had the mortality study, which would be 3. A lot of these Adventists did these things that you're talking about just based on the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, not based on science.
Elijah was fed by the ravens twice a day.
Okay. So you said, I want to be profitable like the prophet 2 times a day. And that's interesting to me, though, because what happened was they made these decisions based on revelation,
Yes.
and now they have science that backs it up.
In the early days, Adventists were all on 2 meals a day. In 1870, Ellen White said they were all on 2 meals a day. But we've lost it in a way. But it's beginning to come back now. There are people coming back to it. We know it's good for weight control. It's good for metabolic cycle. It keeps your blood sugar from bouncing around. We know it's good for sleep apnea. It's good for a lot of things. So that in the U.S., there's a dietitian down there in Alabama. She's been promoting this. Everything you eat, you should eat before 2 o'clock in the day. So that's scientific now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so we're now up to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What do you do after that?
Well, you know, at my age, I sometimes take a nap. I sometimes take a nap.
Well, I know there's a few people watching here, quite a few people. Do you think it's okay for him to take a nap? You can send in any questions you want, because we don't want him to go to sleep. It's now 3:30 our time, and if you don't send questions, then he might go to sleep. And then after that, you take a little nap, and you said you probably have a speaking appointment or a television or a radio program. Do you do a lot of those?
I don't do much of that, but I do a lot of speaking appointments. I'm speaking a lot. I go overseas to Slovakia for maybe every year for the last 10 years or so, except for the COVID years. I go over there, and the lady who I brought into our church, young girl, pediatrician, she's now the medical director. She writes out to all the pastors, he's coming, here's the dates, what date, would you like it? So I'm lined up every Sabbath to preach, and after potluck, another talk. So I'm busy lecturing. I lecture more than 1 lecture a day for every day I'm gone from the U.S.
Wow. So anyone watching there, you know, life, I have a talk that's called Life Begins at 80. Because, you know, Moses was 80 when he started doing a really significant ministry, and so was Caleb. But you're kind of living up to that. You're You're the life begins at 80 guy. Let me ask you another question. You know, the first angel's message, what we're talking about, fear God, give him glory. Fear God, that word fear really means to trust God. Is there anything that we know scientifically that helps us with trusting God?
We know people who go to church live longer. We know that. We don't know exactly why.
Probably because the sermon's long.
But, you know, stress is a problem, but we don't know how to measure it. We don't know it's stress at 1 level or 10 level. We don't know what it is, you see. So we think stress is a problem, but we don't know how to measure it.
So that decreases stress and cortisol, going to church. That will keep him in perfect peace because his mind is stayed on thee. He trusts in thee. You know, the religion and health study out of Loma Linda is looking at some of those things. They say some of the benefits come from social support. Some of the benefits come from rituals. Some of the benefits come from the theology itself, right? And then some of the benefits come from, in that social support, holding one another accountable.
Yes.
All right, so fear God, that's the trust God, give him glory, we've talked about. For the hour of his judgment has come, that's knowing where he is on the timeline, what he's doing, what we should be doing. What about worship itself? Worship and praise and singing, does that have any health benefit?
Yes. Merry heart doeth good like a medicine, we know. The Bible says so. Okay? So being happy, but to be happy, you usually have to have a goal in life. You know, you have to have hope. You have to have a plan.
And what's your goal and plan now? You're almost 100 years old, and what's your goal?
My goal and plan is to win souls, to give other people this same message of health that I have.
So you're busy all the time then?
I'm quite busy, yeah.
Do you find now that you have a little bit more snow on the mountains, a little more gray hair, that you have more influence or less influence?
I have more influence. Everybody wants to know, how did I get to live this long? Everybody wants to know. And they're listening to me now. 20 years ago, they wouldn't listen to me. But now they'll listen to me.
Now that's an interesting thing, you know, it says in Psalm, I think it's 71, verse 17 and 18, it says, now that I'm old and gray-haired, oh God, don't forsake me till I declare thy strength to this generation and the generation that's to come. You're kind of living that text.
Yes.
Okay, so worship and praise and purpose. What about this idea, fear God and give him glory? Worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the fountains of living water. Is this idea of creation helpful, a belief in creation, is it helpful to someone's health?
I think it is. I think it is. You know, the evolutionists, for example, even if they believe the Bible, they don't believe the first 11 chapters. They just try to throw that part out. But that's important of how this world started. We know there's a God. That's proof there is a God.
Okay, so belief in a creator also helps us know that we have a purpose. He created us for a reason.
That's right.
To fear him, give him glory, to help other people, to know him and make him known.
If there's no religion, there's no purpose in life.
This is a big point, I think. In fact, I think, you know, these leading Darwinists and evolutionists, they'll tell you there's no purpose in life.
Yeah.
Except maybe their purpose is to tell people there's no purpose. Okay, so creation and health. What about the Sabbath in health? You know, worship him who made heaven and earth. And usually the way you do that is, it says in the commandment, you know, for in 6 days the Lord created heaven and earth. That's the reason for the Sabbath commandment. And the Sabbath, we mentioned it a little bit. You said it lowers stress. Anything else about the Sabbath that could help us in health?
Well, you know, in the Garden of Eden, we had Sabbath, we had marriage, we had exercise, good health habits. It was interesting, vegetarian diet, all that came in the creation week. That all came in the creation week. And if you don't believe in that, you forget all that. And that's all helpful in your longevity, living a long time.
This is a good point. Okay, so, you know, let's segue to one other thing. You know, it says, I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. what do you think the gospel is, and does it help us with our health?
It does. You know for surety that God sent Jesus, his son, down here to die for, to save us from our sins and to help us bring us to heaven.
Okay, and you know that word gospel, I looked it up. It actually means something that makes one happy.
It's good news.
Someone that makes one smile. In fact, Tyndall, who translated most of the New Testament into New Testament into English, he and about 98% of the King James Version was reliant upon what he did. He said, it's something that makes someone want to dance, be filled with joy. So the gospel, someone that knows the gospel can't be sorrowful.
No, that's right.
Filled with joy. All right, now let me just switch a little bit here. Something you spent your life now, much of your life, helping educate people. Has that been productive work for you? What kind of things have you taught? What kind of things do you teach students when you have them with you?
Well, when I was at the School of Public Health, for example, I started 7 new courses that they never had before.
What were the courses you started?
I started, one is the Adventist Special Teachings from Ellen White.
Okay.
That's one course. I started another one, how to do heartbeat, a coronary risk evaluation program.
Okay.
I started that. I started a weight control program. I started a nutrition program class, how to design nutrition programs.
Okay.
So I had quite a few that I taught.
So nutrition course, what kind of things did you teach in your nutrition course?
Well, for example, Dr. Register was head of our nutrition department. And when we had a School of Public Health, he taught public health nutrition as fats, proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals. I said, Reggie, that's not public health nutrition, that's basic nutrition. Well, he said, you outline the course and we'll teach it. So I outlined it. How to prevent heart attacks, how to prevent cancer, how to keep your weight down. That's public health.
Okay. So more practical application about the practice of how to do those things based on what you eat or don't eat.
Yeah. So I really started the public health program there.
Now, you know, we have a little program here, and you've told me that you might even be willing to teach some of these things to our students.
Yes, it would be good to do. I'd love to do teaching.
Yeah, so our program here, one of the textbooks in our programs, I just noticed this. One of our teachers here is Dr. Nedley, Neil Nedley, who's the president here. And I noticed here in this book, Proof Positive, which is one of the textbooks which he's actually rewriting right now, I think it was you who wrote the foreword to this book. Yeah, you wrote the foreword.
When was that? About 1988 or something?
I'm not sure when this was, maybe 1990, something like that. And here you wrote, this book is the most useful book for health promotion ever written in this generation and will undoubtedly emerge as the standard handbook for all health educators.
Yes.
Did he pay you to write this?
No, he didn't. But I'll tell you, you read that today, and it's still a good forward.
Yeah. So you go on here and talks about all this. It's possible to reduce coronary heart disease by 90%, risk by 90%. Cancer risk is by as much as 80%. So anyway, this is one of our textbooks, and it has chapters on, what are some of the things it covers? Do you remember?
I've given him a new chapter.
What is it called?
I don't know what he's going to call it, but we found out if you take rats and you give them a junk food diet, which we call the teenager diet,
Yeah.
it makes them want to drink alcohol. All rats know not to drink alcohol. All rats know to drink only water. It's human beings that don't know not to drink alcohol. But rats know you shouldn't drink alcohol. You put them on a teenager diet, and something goes wrong biochemically, and we figured out what it is, that they become alcoholics. If you add more pepper and irritating spices and coffee to it, they drink it faster, right the first week, and become alcoholic rats. And then they do something else. If you have enough nutrients, it could go to acetyl coenzyme A, the dopamine can, and that's good. But you have to have a lot of nutrients. On a junk food diet, you don't have enough of the nutrients. So it goes down and make opiates, codeine and morphine. We radioactive tagged it, it made morphine and codeine.
So this junk food is kind of like doing drugs.
That's right.
Very fascinating. And there is a section here on his book, and I'm sure he's going to update this, about cigarettes, about drugs, about alcohol, about addictions. But anyway, so this is one of our courses, and you're also going to help us with some of these lectures. It's a 4-month course. It starts August and goes through December. In our course, we not only have that 3 credits. He spends about 45 hours in lectures. But then we have a health application. You know how you were talking with Dr. Register about how you need to do something practical with public health. So we have our students cook about 25 different recipes. They have to learn how to do that, sort of like you told us how you cook for breakfast. Would you be willing to do a food demonstration for us?
Yes. My wife learned how to make oatmeal waffles. See, most waffles are not good.
Okay.
White flour, and you have sugar on top, honey on top, you know. But make them from oats.
Yes.
We have a 2-2-2 recipe. 2 cups of oats, 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of oil, half a teaspoon of salt, and you mix that up and put it in a hot waffle iron, and you get a beautiful waffle. And instead of putting honey on top, let's put fruit on top.
Maybe applesauce, maybe strawberries, maybe...
Yeah, mangoes.
Mangoes.
Bananas. We make a cashew cream that we put on top.
Hey, you better stop because it's after 2 o'clock. Remember, you don't eat after 2 o'clock. You're making us hungry. So we have this cooking recipes, and they learn how to do that so they can do that in people's homes.
And I want to show them how to take it to other people, convince them of it. I took students from Loma Linda to Polillo, a little island in the Philippines. We had baptized 26 people. They joined the church because of health.
Because of their breakfast food that you served them, right?
And today, 60% of the islanders are Seventh-day Adventists.
Which means they're going to live longer.
Yes.
And I bet you they're pretty healthy. So we have that nutrition application. Then we also do health coaching. You're kind of a health coach, aren't you? So you know, people will ask you questions. So all the stuff they learn from Dr. Nedley and from yourself, then they go into the homes and they start helping. We see them doing this. Actually, we have something here in midweek called Total Community Involvement. And a number of the groups, I visited 2 or 3 of the groups this semester, are doing this in communities. And so we're mentoring them on how to do that. Do you think you could give them any pointers on how to mentor people?
Yes, I could. I've got a lot of ideas.
Okay, so we do this, this health coaching aspect. And then we do, you know, Dr. Nedley has written another book, Depression, the Way Out, and he's done a depression recovery program. So we train them how to do that. We train them how to do a Diabetes Undone, reversing diabetes program.
We can reverse atherosclerosis too.
That's kind of under the New Start acronym, but yes, reversing heart disease, diabetes, hypertension. Another one of your students, Dr. DeRose.
Yes.
He also has a new book out on how to stop and reverse hypertension. Forgiveness. We do something on that with the students, and gratitude. And they learn how to help people see the health benefits of gratitude and forgiveness. Jump in anytime you want to add something here. And then, you know how you said you want them to actually know about God and the Bible? We have a series that they learned called How to Live Longer and Stronger. And every single one of those talks starts with science and then goes to scripture and takes people through the book of Daniel.
In most of my programs, I have at least one person who doesn't even believe in God. And so I looked in the Bible to see how God proves that he's God. And I have all kinds of texts where God says the proof that I'm God is I can predict the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I give them the story of Cyrus in Isaiah, how he was prophesied by name 150 years before he was born.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil tried to mess that prophecy up and tried to destroy Cyrus, but he couldn't mess it up. Cyrus became the king. You know, remember him changing the stream around Babylon, and that's how Belshazzar got killed and all that sort of thing. It was predicted in the Bible 150 years before he was born. And so how can a person not believe in God?
Yeah. So this prophecy, of course, we go through these prophecies in Daniel, but the first chapter is also kind of a prophecy. It says, if you feed us this for 10 days, we're going to be better than the others. And now, you know, some people say that's the foundation of science. That chapter is one of the foundations of science. It's got two groups, you know, a control group and the other group, and it was over 10 days. And we replicate that study all the time here with 10-day programs.
Yeah.
Well, look, we only have about a couple minutes left. I don't know if there's any other questions that come in, but let's wrap it up here. Why don't you, you know, you're looking at the people right now. What is the top, maybe your top 3 tips that everybody needs to have from
Look,
Dr. John?
I want to summarize
Okay.
everything you need to know about nutrition in one sentence. Here's a university course on nutrition in one sentence.
Okay.
That's my job, is to make things concise and plain, you know. And here it is. Eat at the proper time. No snacking. Eat at the proper time. A variety, not a large variety of one meal, you get too fat, but over a period of 10 days. Eat at the proper time, a variety of natural food, unprocessed food, in quantities for ideal weight. That's all you need to know.
All right, I don't know if I can say that. Eat at the proper time.
A variety.
A variety of foods. Natural foods.
Non-processed.
That are not processed, and at the proper amount to not increase weight.
That's right.
So now, are you ready to sign a graduate degree for me? Oh, thank you. Well, that's great. And you know, we're thankful that you've joined us today as well on our first program here. We're trying this out. Tell your friends. Next Thursday, we're going to have another program, and we're going to talk about other topics. Are you going to join us next Thursday?
I can.
And we are going to look more in depth at one of these areas. We covered the first angel's message today. You alluded to the fact that Medo-Persia fell or came and invaded and Babylon fell. Second angel's message has health implications too. Babylon is fallen. She made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. We're going to talk about that. Does wine impact you? Do drugs impact you? What can we learn about health and wellness? We're also going to talk about fornication and sexual issues and how they may impact your health. So next Thursday is a Thursday I'm not going to miss, and I hope you don't as well. If you want more information about the health program or any of our programs here at Weimar University, but that health program comes August through December. It is, let me just tell you, a major hospital network just actually contacted me, and even today sent me over a contract that said, we want you to train 25 health coaches for us. You go through the program at Weimar, we will hire you to work in doing health coaching with our patients when they're discharged from the hospital. That's the first hospital network that's ever done that. And so this is a great class to get into. And there's already jobs, people wanting to give you a job, and you'll be able to learn from people like Dr. Sharffenberg and Dr. Nedley, and also from God's Word. Let's pray together as we close today. God bless us today. Thank you so much for being with us through the agency of your servant, Dr. Sharffenberg. Bless him. We won't say with long life he's already had, but even more life, more abundant life, and every person that's been watching today. In Christ's name we pray. Amen and amen.